Have you ever heard the tale of the Cavalier marriage of blood? It begins as it ends, with a wedding. An aging king, long past his prime, took a young maiden, fair and wise, as his queen. She ushered in an age of peace and prosperity to his kingdom, and together they united the warring nations of the land to form a great commonwealth. That's right. I speak of none other than our Commonwealth of Cavalier. But I'm afraid the peace would not last. At least, not for some. A loyal knight took issue with his king conceding time and again to the whims of his young wife. The king, he argued, should be counseled by a body attuned to the will of his subjects, not by the desires of the queen. In the dark of night came the king's response. The armies of the neighboring lands all met in secret and massacred every member of the House of Blood, the knight's noble clan. No limb left unbroken, no throat left unopened. The House of Blood was drained from the land. How, you may ask, was such a mighty family wiped out in but a single night? An ambush. The younger of the Blood brothers was traveling, on his way to see the king, in fact, to formally announce his marriage, when the soldiers fell upon them, and his blushing bride butchered by his side, the king's own daughter. A marriage of blood, indeed. Soon after, rumors began to spread. The bodies of the Blood brothers and the young bride disappeared. Some say it was the king's men out to destroy evidence of his deed. Some say it was simply grave robbers. But some say the Bloods came back for revenge.
Awaken, my child, and take the gift I have bestowed upon you. Together we will right the injustice you have suffered.
I'm back to serve my king, serving his own head for what he's done.
Flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. Those with whom you choose to share my gift shall become your soldiers in undeath. Cease your suffering and restore balance to the land.
What is that thing?
Welcome to Undead Knights, and the main gimmick here is that we can turn any soldier into undead simply by grabbing them by the face. As we hurt enemies with our normal weapon, they turn red, and when they turn red, if we grab them, they turn undead instantly, much faster, and we also gain health back from this. Transforming them while they're red, like this, is called a critical turn. Now, of course, having an army of undead would mean nothing if we couldn't command them. By holding in the right bumper and pointing in a direction, our zombies will instantly go wherever we point and murder it. This is not the most effective way to take out soldiers, but it does get us a lot of points. These guys are weak, but it does take a reasonable amount of zombies to overwhelm good soldiers. You might notice that there's a really loud rock soundtrack, so just in case you weren't sure if this was Koei, yes, it was made by Koei. It has some similarities with Dynasty Warriors, such as the combat system containing light and heavy attacks that we can branch into each other, but it's mostly a very different beast. These blue soldiers take quite a few more hits, and they're capable of interrupting our combo as well. The downside to this game being so loud is that it can be rather overwhelming at times, but the abundance of noise also makes it a lot more satisfying when you grab people by their face and turn them into zombies. Large enemies can only be stunned if we hurl 3 undead at them. The undead stay on the enemies indefinitely, but if we hurl more than 3, then they have a chance to shake them off, so don't get overexcited. Now we have a Muso gauge, just like in Dynasty Warriors. But if we kill something while we use our Muso gauge, as I did here, it turns it undead for us, which includes this big guy. But we really won't get the chance to use him this time. The further away enemies are, the less frames of animation they have, which is of course because this is on the PSP. So there's another mechanic for Undead when we grab them that we haven't seen yet. We will shortly after I clear these guys out. If we carry them close to an enemy, we can slam them into the ground. And this sacrifices the zombie we're holding, but it also deals massive damage to everything else. Enough to make it so that we can zombify these guys instantly. We can't normally hurt these guys with our sword, we have to use our zombies. Something the game lets you know right away is that this is not a hack and slash where the zombie mechanics are incidental. This is a zombie game where the hack and slash mechanics let you make more zombies. So this game does have problems, but anyone that tells you the problems were that it was too similar to Dynasty Warriors, no, they're lying to you. As you're seeing here, we can also throw zombies into these guys with shields to knock them over and cause them to become vulnerable without sacrificing our own zombie. A very, very large amount of time in this game is spent pointing your zombies at obstacles so that the zombies can take them down for you. Now, this can become repetitive in its own right, but I have a rule regarding games like this. If the game presents a unique mechanic, the game's allowed to abuse it, because it's the only game with that mechanic. So does some of this game get old after 5 or so hours? Yeah, sure. But they make a decent enough attempt at variety that, you know, it's playable. You'll want to finish it. Probably. Maybe. Honestly, the main reason I wanted to share this is not just because it's fun, which it is fun, but because it's so strange. Now, I really like Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors. Those are fun games. But when Koei isn't making Dynasty Warriors or Samurai Warriors, they make some really weird shit. Like this, or Trinity Souls of Zel-Ol. And their licensed games are my favorite. I absolutely adore Ken's Rage and Hyrule Warriors, but this isn't any of those games. A part of me is actually a little bit baffled how this got greenlit, but it did. And it came into some very brief popularity because it was free on the PlayStation Store by accident for, I think, a whole day. We can take out any of these wooden walls by hurling our undead into them, but we don't have to. Any treasure chests we find won't actually contain treasure, they will contain wrath, which fills up our Muso meter. Every single treasure chest contains wrath. All of them, no exceptions. We can also build our wrath meter by turning enemies into zombies. It builds up fairly quickly, all things considered. And honestly, it's the key to not dying later in the game. Here we're about to encounter one of the main flaws of this game, and it's that when you're trying to point your zombies at something, sometimes the game will not let you do so. I'm trying to point at the bridge, but my cursor is locking onto everything but said bridge. Now honestly, things like this in games never really frustrate me because they're obviously accidental. I mean, they weren't trying to make it hard to point your zombies at things. So it doesn't bother me that I have to situate myself a little better.